Understanding Gender and Sexual Orientation with the Rosie Project.
Hi everyone! Today we're going to explore gender, particularly gender identity and how this differs from your
Sexual orientation.
Many people believe they understand gender. They think that you're either a man or a woman, but actually this is not the case. The Oxford definition of gender is the idea of being male or female with reference to social and cultural differences, not differences in our biology. So, by definition, gender is how we perform our gender or play the roles of either a man or a woman based on how we were raised or brought up or what we've seen in our society. In history, gender has been prescribed as these two rigid binaries. And we have seen these gender stereotypes suffocate and invalidate human experiences throughout all of modern history. However, now we know better and realize that human beings are far too complex and diverse to ever fit into just two categories. So today, we're going to explore all the facets of gender. Fortunately, there is heaps of research and information through lived experience around this topic. And so today, we will be facilitating this discussion using an amazing resource by itspronouncedmetrosexual.com, an awesome online organization dedicated to educating around gender and gender identity. The tool we'll be using is called the GenderBread person. So, before we get started, I just want to give some definitions of terms we'll be commonly using throughout this video to unpack as we go. So firstly, what does cis mean? The term cis refers to people whose personal gender identity corresponds with their assigned birth sex. So, a woman who feels that she truly is a woman and identifies that way and was assigned female at birth would be a cis woman. What does trans mean? Transgender, often referred to as trans, is when someone's personal gender identity is different to the sex that they were assigned at birth. So, a trans woman is a woman who feels and knows she truly is a woman, but may have been assigned the sex of male at birth. What does non-binary or gender fluid mean? If someone's gender identity is non-binary, this means the person does not fully identify or feel they fit into either the male or female category wholly. But they may fit somewhere comfortably in between. They also might feel that their gender is fluid and can change. So now that we have a few key terms defined, let's take a look at the GenderBread person. Let's start out with gender identity, as I'm sure this term you're hearing more and more. Gender identity is the gender you feel best describes who you are and feel as a person. You may feel the gender that best describes who you are is the gender that coincides with your assigned sex. As we discussed earlier, this would make you either a cis woman or a cis man. But some people may know that who they are as a person is actually a different gender, or don't really feel that who they are as a person can really fit into a male or female gender binary. This is how trans and non-binary people may feel. So, gender identity is how we feel and what gender best describes who we are. But this is not necessarily exactly the same as gender expression. Gender expression is how you present or express your gender identity. So your clothes, hairstyle, the way you walk, hold yourself, the language you use, and how this expression is perceived by others through societal expectations. For example, some non-binary people may feel that they're neither male nor female and don't feel right identifying with either. However, this does not mean a non-binary person will always dress androgynously. Androgynous meaning not particularly masculine or feminine, but somewhere in between. Some non-binary people may dress in a way that society perceives as either hyper-female or male. It is important to remember that just because someone may dress more feminine or more masculine, this does not represent who they are and how they identify. How we express ourselves on the outside can change due to mood, our safety and comfort levels, our growth, and even fashion. So it's important to not presume that someone's gender identity is based solely on their gender expression. We're allowed to express ourselves in different ways.
That shows the complexity and individuality of who we are. Sex, or anatomical sex. We'll be discussing this in depth tomorrow, so stay tuned to the Rosie Project stories tomorrow and we'll discuss this further. Now, let's move on to sexual orientation. Sexual orientation refers to an enduring emotional, romantic, or sexual attraction. Sexual orientation is fluid. It includes people who we are sexually attracted to and romantically attracted to.
Many people believe
Sexual orientation and gender
are interlinked, but this is not the case. In history, society used to believe that men are sexually attracted to women and vice versa. However, we know that many people are attracted to the same sex, and that who you're sexually attracted to has nothing to do with your gender identity. Many people presume that trans women will always like men, but this is very untrue and a misconception. There are many trans women who are lesbian or pansexual.
For example,
pansexual is when a person is sexually attracted to all types of people, whether they be male, female, trans, or non-binary.
we know that our sexual orientation is separate to our gender identity.
So it is important not to presume someone's
Sexual orientation
because of their gender identity, and especially not because of their gender expression.
Your sexual orientation is your relationship to sex and attraction. And whilst this can be who you prefer to have sex with or who you fall in love with, it can also be the fact that maybe you're not as interested in sex.
This is called asexual. But just because someone is asexual doesn't mean they aren't romantically attracted to anyone. Many asexual people fall in love, have relationships, marriages, etc. So romantic attraction refers to the types of people we fall in love with, but is not necessarily a sexual relationship. Okay, this may seem like a lot of information, so let's break it down simply with a few take-home points. Gender, like sex, operates on a spectrum. This makes sense due to our beautiful diversity and individuality we have as humans. How we interact with the world around us is far too complex and interesting to fit neatly into two rigid categories of either male or female. It is important to remember that gender identity does not equal gender expression. Gender expression and identity do not equal sexual or romantic attraction. And your sex certainly does not equal your gender. Don't worry if you're still getting your head around it. The Rosie Project will go through gender all week, unpacking this further and answering your questions. Stay tuned.